Hello, greeting and warm welcome to ELT Long, and especially the speech of Malala Yousafzai. We are going to describe and analyze the speech of Malala Yousafzai at the UN. The speech I have entitled as Education First. Let's move further toward the speech. Describing the setting of this speech has been delivered by Malala Yousafzai at the United Nations Youth Assembly or Youth Takeover on 12th July 2013. The day is also marked as her 16th birthday. If we talk about the major content of this speech is the education. So in her speech, she has advocated that education should be first of all other needs of human being. It should be addressed first by the governments. Similarly, she starts her speech with a Islamic greeting, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It means, in the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. She starts discussing that human rights activists and social activists are struggling to fulfill their aim or to achieve their goal regarding education, peace and equality. Terrorism has killed thousands of people and injured millions of people in Pakistan, and she addresses herself as she is one of them. She addresses that I speak for all the girls and boys, not for herself only. She speaks the voice of voiceless. In her speech, she addresses the voice of voiceless, that to be heard by the world. On the 19th October 2012, she has been shot on her left forehead by Taliban, a terrorist group. On the same day, in the same incident, her friends were also shot. And the reason of shooting Malala Yousafzai and her friends was to silence them, to collapse or to destruct their voice that should not be heard by others. Means totally to silence them or silence their voice against terrorism, women education or girls education. But even after the shoot, nothing has been changed. The changes occurred in the character of Malala Yousafzai were the death of weakness, fear and hopelessness. And even the incident brought strength, power and courage with her. In her speech, she addresses that she is not against anyone or not want the revenge against any terrorist group. The only thing that she wants is education for every child, every children, even for the children of Taliban, the terrorist too. Taliban is the terrorist group. She would not shoot. She says that she would not shoot the terrorist of Taliban. Even he would stand in front of her. And she has learned this compassion from Muhammad, Jesus, and Lord Buddha. She has learned the philosophy of non-violence from Mahatma Gandhi, Bacha Khan, and Mother Teresa. So, due to the knowledge of these things, she will not shoot even the same terrorist, even the terrorist who shooted her. She mentions that we realize importance of light when we see darkness. She mentions that we realize the importance of light when we see darkness. We realize importance of voice when we are silenced. She discusses an incident in Swat, North Pakistan, that they realized importance of pen and books when they saw gun. There is a famous proverb, famous saying that pen is mightier than sword, and this is true because even the terrorist had shooted Malala Yousafzai and her friend, but nothing changed. The extremists are afraid because they couldn't silence the voice of women for education, peace, and equality. The power of women's voice frightens them. To silence the voice of women, the terrorist group killed 14 medical students, many female teachers and polio workers, and they were regularly blasting the schools because they are afraid of change and equality. They don't want the voice to be raised more. The only thing that they want to silence the voice of education and freedom. She even realizes an incident where a journalist in a school asks a schoolboy, "Why are Taliban against education?" A journalist asks a schoolboy in his school that why are Taliban against education? And the boy simply replies that a Talib doesn't know what is written inside the book. The content written inside the book is totally different from their concept, from the knowledge they have about the God, the Allah. And he says that the God, the Allah, is not tinny and conservative. Is not tinny and conservative. Who would send girls to hell just because of going to school? And the schoolboy believes that Allah is not a tinny and a conservative one. Allah will not send girls to hell because they attend school. The terrorists are misusing the name of Allah and Pashtun society for their own benefit. To control the voice of women's for their education, equality and peace. The terrorist groups are misusing the name of Islam and the Pashtun society for their own benefit. They are misinterpreting the message by Islam and the belief of Pashtun society. In reality, Islam is a religion of peace, humanity, and brotherhood, which is being misinterpreted to people by the terrorist groups for their own benefit. Islam always advocates education as duty. Islam not only advocates education as the right of children, it advocates education as a duty and responsibility of every child. So, Taliban are not only using the guns, they are using the misinterpretation as their tools to silence the voice of women. Further, she mentions that we are tired of wars in the world. There are many countries who are suffering with wars. Even Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nigeria, and many more countries, they are suffering with wars. And due to the war, women and children are suffering most. Young girls have been doing domestic child labor, and they married at early ages, which is directly a challenge to their health. Poverty, ignorance, injustice, racism, and deprivation of basic rights are main problems of the world. And these things are due to the wars and conflict among the countries or among the governments. And governments are not being fully responsible to control poverty, ignorance, injustice, racism, and deprivation of basic rights. And she called upon all the governments of the world and the United Nations Secretary to address these problems. Women rights and girls' education are the major one. She mentions that women rights and the girls' education are the major one, the major problem of the world. But this time we will do it by self. She mentions that there was a time when women needs a man to raise their voice. But this time women have to raise their voice by themselves. It's the time to speak up. She calls the world's leader to change their strategic policy in favor of peace and prosperity, which should include women's right, education, and equality. Only the old strategic policy that are not able to consider women's rights, women's education, and equality, that should be changed. She calls upon all peace deal. She calls governments upon all peace deals must protect women and children rights. After the war or after the conflict, there is a peace deal, and each peace deal should protect women and children's rights. Government should ensure free and compulsory education for children. Government should fight against terrorism and violence of any kind. She calls the women of the world, around the world, she calls women around the world to be brave, and she mentions that we want schools and education for every children's bright future. She mentions that let us empower ourselves with weapon of knowledge. Men or other social factor will not empower us if we are uneducated. So we should empower ourselves with the weapon of knowledge. If we are educated, means we are empowered, and we can fight for equality, we can fight for our education and peace. Let us wage a global struggle against literacy. And she calls that to wage a global struggle against illiteracy. Let's pick up our books and pens to struggle against the illiteracy state of the world. The books and pens are the most powerful weapon in the world. In her speech, she mentions her belief. At the last part of her speech, she mentions her belief that one child, one teacher, one pen and one book can change the world. Education is the only solution for all kinds of deprivation, even the equity, rights for education, peace. For all these such problem, education is the only solution. So she advocates that education should be regarded first. So these are the main things that she has covered in her speech. So for authentic video, you can go to the link and you can watch the authentic video of Malala Yousafzai speech at UN, United Nations. So I hope the video will be useful for you. Have a great time, and please subscribe the channel for